You're listening to Life Repair Recovery Talk Radio with Rick Thompson, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hello, welcome to Life Repair Recovery Talk Radio. I am your host, Rick Thompson. This show is about sobriety and recovery. Each week, we discuss a different topic relating to addiction with the aim that you can gain some insight, guidance, and hope from our discussions. We focus the show in 3 different segments. 1, the viewpoint of the families dealing with the family members suffering from alcoholism and addiction so they may assist them in obtaining treatment. 2, the psychological trauma and emotional damage alcoholics and addicts and their families experience. 3, the role of the insurance companies and associate providers and their part in the recovery process. Welcome to tonight's broadcast. We have 2 very special guests in the studio, Paula and her effervescent husband, Richard. Hello, Paula. Hello, Richard. Welcome to the broadcast.
Hi, Rick. Thank you.
Hi, glad to be here. Glad to be anywhere.
Yes, well, anywhere above dirt is a good thing, especially for us. I want to just start off and ask if you could please share with us your personal stories for a few minutes and what led both of you to your respective 12-step programs.
Well, you should
I'll
go,
start.
Paul. Yeah.
Yes. I'll start. I started it all to begin with.
Yes, you
anyway,
did. Yes.
Didn't I?
Yeah.
Yes, well, I am 7 years clean and sober. And 7 years ago, when I was only 71, I went into rehab. And that is a late date to start because most of the kids in my rehab were, 18 to 20, maybe 21. Then there was an occasional 60-year-old who was still younger than I was. And so that was great fun, actually. It was fun to be with all these young kids who had decided to get themselves straight and not wait as long as I had. But by the time I went in, I had really thrown myself, into the abyss several times. I OD'd when I was working. And the day but that's not the only thing. And I did end up in mental hospitals a couple of times. And the day that I decided to go in, I was hearing wails call to me from across the abyss somewhere. And I decided I'd done enough damage to my family, my children, my son and my daughter, and my husband, that I had better turn myself around. So going in was quite something. The actual, getting rid of the toxins inside of you takes about a week. And you're still, as my friends remember, green. I was actually green when I came in. And we've got a photo to prove it. And then I stayed in this rehab for a little while, and the kids were very nice. They really were. They offered me tea, and they were really nice. And my older friend and I had a good time conversing. He smoked, I didn't, but we discussed how you're supposed to answer all these questions that they give you. And I thought at first I should answer them very fully. He said, no, just put a word or two, and that'll do it.
What kind of questions were they, do you remember?
Questions like, what was your lowest point? What was your bottom like? And I guess mine was, I had several bottoms, actually. But one that seemed to stand out to me was when I was upstairs in my own home and think, I can't get down those stairs without a couple of Vicodin. So I thought, wow, that's really low, even though the other was I was even out, and I had to be fed coffee and stuff to get back up again. And it was certainly when my children talked to me and they said, Mother, we can't take it anymore. We can't take who you are. And I thought they were just mad at me. I didn't realize they were absolutely right, that I was a terrible person to be living with. So that finally brought it to my attention that I should go in, and we found a terrific rehab. I really liked it. I had been in mental institutions, and that was for other kind of silly things. One was trying to jump off of catwalk in France when I was doing a movie in Paris, and I ended up in the American Hospital for the Mentally Ill. And and then I came to the Payne Whitney in New York, and I spent time there. But the real recovery came when I went into rehab, because I could kind of look around and think, this is nice. They don't have other drugs that they put you on, which they do in mental hospitals. And it's just a matter of habit. And so applying one step at a time and being as humble as you can when people ask you to do things, and making your schedule as simple as possible and following the rules of the rehab, which is like go to these meetings, go to a yoga class if you want to, meet with others, exchange with others. That's what really saw me through. At first I thought I was going to say 30 days, and then I thought, no, I'm going to get a divorce. I had huge snap conclusions about everything, which went away after I stayed 60 days, and then I stayed 90 days, which was good. And then when I got out, I had a program. I had a program interior where I could go to meetings and I could address people honestly, and I could make amends. That's a good one, too, if you've really ruined someone's day. They're remembered, and if you say something about it, you begin to make amends, and they may or may not respond in empathy with you. They may not. Doesn't matter, you go ahead and do it anyway. And then you just begin to conduct yourself with a bit of self-respect, because you're taking care of others. You're listening to what other people have to say instead of thinking solely on your own and for yourself. So that did it. Persistence.
How many times were you in treatment?
Just once.
You went one time and you got it?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I was quite old when I went. As I told you, I was 71.
Okay. Well, she did it. There was a very emotional event that took place. It had to do with our daughter. There had been another big emotional event had to do with our son, and she saw the light. She saw what damage was being done, and she saw it. She stopped all of the medication, all the stuff she was on, and we were out of town. And we flew back, and that's when I think you began to hear the wails and things. Because
the detox.
She was detoxing.
Yes, probably. And
yeah.
I remember those two events were particularly bad because my son was getting married, and I went drunk to his wedding, and I was supposed to dance with him, and I couldn't. I just fell under the table. And the other one was my daughter had gotten engaged on stage in front of us, and I went across the street, but I was so loaded I couldn't be congratulatory. I couldn't be anything but selfish in myself, so I didn't go to that party.
Right.
So I had to apologize. Gee whiz, what else do I have?
Sure, I understand.
And all those times you make excuses. And someone found her in a bathroom. She's got a little flu.
Right.
She's not feeling. And all of it was the stuff that you do to cover up
the damage.
Yeah, but she did it herself. She did it. None of the stuff over the years that I tried to do and tried to get her to stop. You don't need that. Could you not take that pill? All the years that I did it until I went to al-anon, which I've been in 7 years,
right.
Same period as Paula's been sober. Do you know that you can't do anything? They have to do it.
Everything.
And
right.
Yet, all those years you think, well, I'm the good person, I'm the righteous one, she's sick, and look how good I am, not realizing your part in this.
Right.
You don't know, that is your part
Which
in
is
it.
severe, is the enablement.
Well, you are, and it's perfect. If you are perfect who wants to be the good person, if you are the person who wants to be the good person and right and show, look at this, look what I have to deal with every single day, it's a perfect script because you reinforce it by this situation. If you thought, well, I think I won't do anything, there's nothing I can do, you don't know that, but that's the system that the two of you have gotten into
right,
after
sure.
all these years.
Of course.
And the other person is just as responsible. The al-anon person has to help break the system. And what happens when Paula did this courageous, wonderful, miraculous thing on her own, you're left out in the cold. I had a job.
Right.
I had a good job.
Now you're unemployed.
I'm unemployed. I'm supposed to be taking care of her. Guess what? She doesn't need you to take care of her. Well, what am I supposed to do? Look at me. I was the good person. Where's all the credit going? I need some credit here because of what I put up with for all those years. Right. Doesn't everybody see that? Well, the truth of the matter is you're part of it. You've enabled it.
Yes.
For me, until I got into al-anon, did I know what my part in it was and how I have to change. And the interesting thing is, when seeing her change, if you don't change alongside of her, she'll just rocket past you.
Right. The dynamics are going to get really different.
They are.
Quickly.
And I saw that. First of all, somebody said, because her stuff was, prescription meds and stuff, her brain came back. It came back in weeks and months, and even now, her memory and everything is spectacular. And watching that all return and saying, here's Paula.
Yeah.
Paula's back.
Right.
Well, you better keep up with her.
Right.
You better keep up with her. And not ask her, are you, there's that hideous question that you ask during all that period, are you okay? Is everything okay? What that question really is, I need a certain answer, so I'll be okay.
Right.
You're depending on the temperature of the other person all the time, and the other person actually knows it. So you're not fooling anybody. I'm not really asking her, is she okay? I'm asking her, would you be sober tonight enough for us to go out? Should I make this plan? Or what would really be, or how about if you took a nap this afternoon? Don't you think that's a good idea? Because then I know we have a certain window after
that you can
that.
Operate. Sure.
So this game, this system is all involving. It takes all your energy all day long as you plan around
the alcoholism,
the alcoholism,
right.
The substance abuse. Your day and everything is based on that, and that tape that's inside of yourself is running all the time, and then it stops, and it's like, wait a minute, am I listening for a bottle cap to be unscrewed? Am I taking her temperature? She doesn't need that. She doesn't want it. And yet, for a period, just like it takes time after she actually stopped this stuff, it takes time for that tape to stop running for the al-anon.
Sure.
Because I'll be in the house after, let's say, a couple of weeks, and she's back. Well, she actually did 90 days, which was wonderful, in the sober living. And afterwards, I hear a bottle cap being cracked somewhere, and
your antenna goes up.
It goes up
immediately,
and
sure.
Everything goes up because you think, here we are. Guess what? It's a Tylenol bottle.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
You know what I mean? But it takes time for the trust to kick in when you see, of course, there is no more of this Vicodin. There is no more. She just has a little headache. She takes 2 Tylenol during the. Okay, now years have gone by, and that trust is set. But it takes time for that.
Yes, and it's fantastic for the addict when the whoever it is, the child, the mother, the husband, sister, goes into al-anon, because you have an entirely different world then between you. You have a wonderful world between you of trust.
And you begin to take care of yourself.
Right.
That whole time you thought you were taking care of somebody else. The truth of the matter is you weren't even talking to her. You were talking to drugs.
Right. You're talking to the disease. Yeah, she wasn't anywhere.
She wasn't even there.
She was in another state.
And the other thing that I found after was that I wanted to go over those things. I wanted to recreate them. So do you know what you did on that night at that place? Because there's something about it that wasn't available then. So now that you're completely clean and sober, let's discuss some of this
Let's discuss
stuff.
this and dig this up.
Which is really yourself wanting to drop back into that same place again. All these things take time to get straightened out, but they're actually behavior things, and it takes time for both people to change the behavior.
That's amazing. I mean, could you share like some incidents that happened that aren't too crazy? That where you had to like jump in and handle the situation immediately?
No, yeah, she was working on something, a film, and I got calls throughout the years. Paula's a little under the weather. Could you come here? Mm-hmm. Well, sure. So I'd have to,
a little under the weather.
Straighten this out, keep this career going, not let something happen to it. Well, you know what I mean. She has a cold or something, and she probably had too much of that, blah, blah, and all that. The trouble with all that is you're talking to people in show business. They know this stuff backwards and forwards.
Right.
Of
course they do.
They've all been there. The population is huge.
Huge. Like 98%.
Yeah. So they say, "Are you kidding? We know." So, but I would be called in these cases, and there are lots of them, and they're all similar, and some much more devastating than others. The one she's talking about in Paris, I was working, and I flew from the middle of America. I was doing something, middle of the States, and flew there because they said Paula's in trouble here. And we were real young, we were in our 20s, and
really,
yeah, and I don't know if a marriage can survive it, should survive it, but thank heavens it did. Because here's the other little trick. You love the other person, so that's underneath it all and fueling it, and you don't know how to take care of the person, but you want to. Right. And you become a helper, an enabler, and all of that. I suppose somebody else could say, "I'm working now. I don't need the money from her. We're done." And I suppose people did that. But
yes,
when you love the person, that keeps you there.
Right. Of course
that
it does.
Keeps you there, and it worked. It all worked out.
Yeah, we've had to learn to love each other in the right way.
Yeah, in the right way.
So that it's fun and respectful and crazy and all of that.
Yeah.
You can have all those wonderful things going on.
Yeah.
But if you have an addict in it and then an al-anon person, it's never going to be fun.
Yeah.
So you were doing the Vicodin and drinking on top of the Vicodin and whatever else was going on du jour?
Really? More than that?
Really? There were things I didn't know about? Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah, just a lot of trashy stuff.
Incredible.
Yeah,
I mean, because seeing you when I was a kid on film, you would think this girl is all 100% American. She's perfect.
Well, she is, and that's the other thing. Yeah. I knew what had happened, when you see it, there's nothing there except beauty and talent.
Right.
That's all that you see.
Right.
And so
backstory's a whole nother scenario.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah. It always usually is.
And I know particular movies where she's absolutely brilliant, and there were some problems there. You can't see any of that. You can't see any of that.
One movie I thought I exploded on the screen because I had just had a baby. The baby was 3 months old, and I got this job. And when I remember having the thing, shooting the scene, and being so happy I couldn't even tell you because I had just had a baby.
Right.
So that came right across, and I, of course, didn't have anything during those things. But when I turned to the things, it was the wrong choice.
But that's the thing. The tricky part is being productive, able to keep going, with a couple of setbacks here and there, but still maintaining. So it'd be one thing if you just completely collapsed and, we can't hire that person because, they don't show up. But that wasn't the case. So there was just a maintenance level there.
Yeah.
Right, just make sure she was still bankable.
Yeah, and which is, in a way, that, so you don't actually hit bottom, you keep going,
Right.
but it keeps it at that other
Functional level.
yeah, which is not such a good thing.
Not really.
Yeah.
Not when you see what it does to you in the long
Yeah.
run.
Right. Some people function well as addicts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
When I used to work for
Seemingly.
Aerosmith when I was a kid, I used to watch these guys walk in, and this is common knowledge. They would walk into the dressing room. There would be an ounce of Coke. It would be cut up and fit in 5 piles. They would do all of it, and then each one of them grab. I mean, we're talking 3.5 grams at a time, and grab a whole bottle of Jack Daniels and walk on and just chug half of it and play for 90 minutes nonstop.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're all waiting for him to drop dead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thinking that there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
not
they would do it.
automatic.
They would do this every 3 days.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How did you meet? And in what year was it? And how long have you been married?
We will have been married in October of this year, the 26, 55 years. We met at Northwestern University. Dick was a year behind me, and I waited for him, and I was a graduate student in the theater while he graduated. And so
We met at school, yeah.
we met at Northwestern.
I remember the first second I saw her, and that was it.
Yep.
I was done.
Yeah, I understand. I had that experience when I was 7.
I was done. Yeah.
I thought he was awfully cute, and he was a Jew from New York. I thought, this has got to be a treasure. Treasure.
Catholic girl saying that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That's insane. When do you think the alcoholism and drug addiction was becoming prevalent and beginning to interfere in your professional work and your home as well, like the beginning of it, when you first had that moment where you knew that this was bad, really bad?
Oh, I ignored it. I denied it for a long, long time. And in fact, when I was in the rehab, I remember taking a bus trip somewhere. We were going to a meeting or something, and I looked out on the sidewalk, and there was a mother walking her little boy, and I thought, I miss that. I miss that. Because I was 50 years
Whoa.
on stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. You're still alive.
Yeah.
Seriously, I mean, 50 years of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, 50 years of anything
Right.
could kill you.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So I didn't really admit it all the time, even though when I jump out of the car and run to a liquor store to get a liquor thing
Right.
to take with me to work, I never admitted it.
How much
There's so
do you
much
think-
stress and tension in our business, as you know.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and finding ways to minimize the fear of failing or whatever that is. You know, you'll look to things until you realize that they're not really going to help. They're just going to anesthetize you. That's all they're going to do. They're going to remove you from the present.
Oh, absolutely.
That took a long time for me to get.
And when you're married, there's a third partner in the marriage, and it's drugs or alcohol.
It's a disease. Yeah, absolutely.
There, you live with something else, and it's nice to have that person or thing to have departed. Yeah, it's really wonderful.
So on a daily basis, what do you think you were? What were you doing? I mean, how much were you drinking? How many pills were you taking?
Indiscriminate.
Really? Just whatever got you there and kept you where you need. You had the balance, and I understand that. No, absolutely.
It wasn't measured out.
You just like when you got there, you got there.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah,
I got that. Wow, unpacked your bags, hung out, and then if you needed,
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Wow, 50
Yeah.
years. Wow, that's you look great. Seriously.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Jesus. This is a question for both of you. What was it like to be in the motion picture business during the 60s, 70s? Was the partying directly incorporated into doing business? And what was the most challenging part of the business during that period, having to deal with that element?
It was incorporated, all right. There would be parties where there would be
Right.
lots of stuff, and you could partake of it if you wanted to.
You know, it was around, and there, Coke was around, all that stuff was around. I never had anything to do with it. And again, I thought, well, aren't I the good one? You know,
Right.
I don't want any part of this. I like to live in the present.
Right.
I want to be available for everything. I don't want to miss anything. So I never liked any of it. But it certainly, was around.
Oh, it was around. And sometimes on film companies there was a tremendous amount of drinking, morning to evening,
Yeah.
And,
It was probably more acceptable in the 60s during those time periods than it would ever be today.
Pardon?
It was probably more acceptable during that time period.
And if you're in Europe, it's very acceptable.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that is true. I mean, when they break, they have wine, and they used to, I don't know if they still do, it's called French hours, where they don't break at all. The American film industry tried it for a little while, but it didn't work. That there was no break for lunch, but there was no overtime either. In other words, the day was a straight 8-hour day or something like that, and it didn't work. Plus, crew guys didn't like it because it put them in traffic all the time in those hours here.
Right.
And so they wanted to start early, and leave at a certain time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it didn't work here at all. But in Europe, they had those hours, and they had wine because they didn't break. There was food and wine on the set all the time.
And you just eat during the day while you
or drink,
right.
Yeah,
Right.
And there were some people who, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you'd have to. The only way you could shoot them was to lie them flat on the ground and
Nice.
and shoot straight down on them. Yeah, put a brick flat underneath them like they're against a wall.
Right.
So that's the only way you could finally shoot.
I'm pray to God
them.
they remember their lines.
Yeah.
And it was also very easy. I stayed in Versailles when I was making a movie, and Pernod by the bottle was available.
Yeah.
And if you don't think I was sick as a dog when I got to the set, you're mistaken. That stuff is a killer.
Really?
Oh my gosh, have you not had it?
No. Thank
Well,
God I didn't have that.
Don't go near it. It seems like a little licorice drink.
Yeah, it tastes. Yeah, it smells
Kind of like a
licorice.
Jägermeister kind of a thing, but a different.
Well, it's strong. It's it's very strong.
Yeah, it's very strong.
Yeah, it's like a liqueur or something.
Very
okay.
sweet.
I don't know. Yeah.
Paula, what are the most essential elements to being sober for you?
Self-respect and respecting others. Just thinking about people instead of yourself, thinking about, I think that would make the person feel better if I did this. Or let me see if I can have a conversation that's not about me. Let me consider their feelings. Because that's all you don't.
I
when
think
you're
that's very
addicted.
interesting. What you don't have in addiction when you're addicted is empathy.
Right.
What I realized was she was thinking about her. I was thinking about her. That made 2 against 0.
Right.
Guess who the 0 was? Me.
Yeah.
Because where I put all my attention. Although she didn't even know that that's where I was putting my attention.
Well,
because
she wasn't even on the planet.
yeah. So that word empathy is one of the great returns, I think.
Yeah.
How do you process if you have a craving? How do you process it, and what is your first line of defense?
Well, I keep certain habits in mind every day so that I don't have the cravings, but I am a recovering alcoholic, so I may have the cravings.
Right.
But I don't have them as far as I know, and I always use prayer. I use discipline, doing a certain kind of workout. I do nothing on pills except Tylenol, literally, even after an operation or anything. It's just a way of looking at the world. And usually it's better to look at the world than to hide from it.
Very true.
And that's what you do when you drink or you drug. You're hiding.
There you are.
it's real lonely when you're isolating. You don't care
yes,
about
it is.
anybody, and nobody cares about you.
That's right.
And it's in a way, on the kind of on the religious side, it's kind of a sin to be here alive in the day and obliterate yourself from it.
Yeah, it is.
It's kind of a sin. You're given
You're
this great gift of life,
Right.
you know.
Yes.
And we now know that every day is
It's a gift.
that. Yeah.
It is a gift.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, to really enjoy that fact is major.
Has recovery in al-anon assisted you in reestablishing control of your relationship in your lives on multiple levels?
Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and I realize, as I said, I think before, my part in it, my half of it, even though I didn't drink or do anything, but I was addicted. I had an addiction, which was to enable her,
Right.
take care of her, and the minute it stopped, I could feel like, where am I going to put that?
Right.
I better go save somebody else if I can find somebody. Anybody, a person, a
Spoken
dog.
like a true al-anon.
You know, here's a plant. Here's a plant. You know,
Here's a plant.
Yeah, I'll find something. I can't be left alone like this.
Yeah, that's never good.
Yeah, right. Look at her, all healthy and everything.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do?
Right.
So, because it was such a big part of me. So, you see, your part in it, your half of it. It's just the same kind of addiction. If hers is chemical, so is mine. So is mine. My brain is locked on to that. Needs it.
Right.
And then when you stop it and say, well, now what's going to replace it? And that's the thing. That's what's great about Al-Anon. I think what's great about AA. You can't just say, that's it, I'll stop doing this. You need to replace it. The behavior has to be replaced by other behavior. And that's what I think is great about the meetings and, all the literature and all of that stuff.
Do you go to al-anon meetings?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Paula, do you understand why you drank and are medicated in the first place? Was it like rage, misunderstandings, professional or otherwise?
Sure, all of those.
Okay.
But I think that's what it is. If you know it's fear, it's anger, then just let that go and just stop. You know, there's no getting into why in a big psychological something. You might trick yourself into thinking you need it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Don't go there.
Right.
Just go on the fact of discipline. I'm very disciplined, even when I was a drunk, because that's the way to handle things. Don't delve into it.
Right.
Just don't do it.
I think it's why, although analysis does some good things, I think it's why analysis doesn't quite work in this.
It doesn't work like AA.
Yeah.
You can't legislate it away.
No, you can't do that.
You can't figure it out and change. You actually have to change.
Yeah, that's not the easiest part. How long did it take you to get present in the moment? I mean, where you didn't, when
I'm
you
still doing
get
that.
to pull yourself into the moment. Yeah.
Sure. The 7 years are a beginning.
Right. Okay.
7
That's
years are a
honest.
beginning, and I'm wondering what's going to come next, because that is the purpose, to stay in the present.
It's incredible when you get here. I mean, it took me almost 19 years.
Really?
Oh yeah, because I was just batshit crazy. It was not a pretty sight. Imagine Pigpen from Peanuts times pi. That was the Ricky Thompson show. It was not pretty. And I would sit there when I first got sober, and my head would, and I'd have to pull myself in to try and just listen to what somebody was saying.
Yeah.
And I spent the first year, playing ping pong with my own brain.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just people just don't understand what addicts and alcoholics go through. We're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be back in just a minute.
I would like to take a moment and talk to you about the Villa Treatment Center. Their integrated substance abuse and dual diagnoses program rests on foundational principles of personal responsibility, structure, and service. Whether you are at the beginning of your recovery journey or farther along the road, The Villa Treatment Center offers an individual plan to suit all of your recovery needs. Detoxification by doctors specializing in addiction medicine, residential treatment, transitional living, day treatment, and full care outpatient services are available. Please call 818-505-6900 for further information. That's 818-505-6900 and begin your recovery now. The website for Life Repair Recovery Talk Radio is www.latalkradio.com. Life Repair Recovery Talk Radio is on Channel 1. We are broadcasting live from our studios every Sunday at 6 p.m. West Coast time. All of our shows are archived on the www.latalkradio.com site and can be accessed 24/7. Our call number is 323-203-0815. That's 323-203-0815. And now back to our show.
And we're back. Okay. We're back with Paula and Richard. And the next question I have is, does living in recovery give you the high and the euphoria that you once achieved with drinking and using?
Well, it's real. Mm-hmm. It's not just going to come and be a downer in a few minutes or an hour or two. Right. No, that's not what's going to happen to you on these highs. These highs really sustain you as you choose the way you want to live and how you want to be with people. The other highs are just like blown up in the sky, and then it peters out. Mm-hmm. That's the end of it.
Right.
Even the all-day things. No, it's a very different high. I think people call it a spiritual high, but it is because you're accepting of the things that are around you as you're in gratitude for all the beauty around you and for the people around you, and that's a different kind of a high.
Right.
That's a high in which you're responsible.
Yes.
So in the other high, you don't know what you're going to do, and you don't care.
Yeah, which is not so good.
No, it's not good.
That's when the money, guns, and lawyers things start to come around, and that's never pretty.
That's never pretty. That's right.
Do you think there's anything that someone could have said to you to change your drinking and using back then?
Nothing.
Wow, look at the look in her eye. That's really... wow. Okay.
I can attest to that.
Yeah.
Because I tried. And the amazing thing is you don't know that. You think you can do it.
Yeah, because you're expecting some rationale out of a person that's completely irrational.
Exactly.
They've actually gone insane.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you to say, now, you don't need to take that next pill. Yeah. Put that away, okay? Just relax, okay? And then before you know it, they've gone to the bathroom or gone somewhere or turned away, and they have taken the next.
Sure, because they've got stashes all over the house.
Yeah, and you think you're talking on a rational level, like you're talking to yourself, because you wouldn't take the next pill or any pill.
Right.
But you don't know that. You just don't know that. But I think it took these big events for Paula to see the light and for everything to change.
Hit over the head.
Yeah, that does work after a while.
It does work after a while, enough times.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Paula, do you ever feel stuck? And if so, how does your program get you through it?
Stuck.
Everyday life.
Well, kind of after the 7 years, I felt kind of a flattening out, and I thought, I've never done meditation. Why don't I try that? So I decided to try that. I was doing a reading with my husband, and I spoke to my sponsor before that, and she gave me a kind of a meditation and a prayer. So after that, since that was a kind of a crisis time to use meditation, I try to do it more often, because it is nice and it does stay with you. It kind of comes along with you during the day, the meditation, and I had not done that before.
I had on Al S. last week. I don't know if you know who he is, but he does a lot of meditation classes. And, I was just sitting here trying to wrap my head around it, because it's very hard for me to look at anything for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I've got 23 years, it's just the way my brain's fried. From all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's if you're going to start meditating, what do you concentrate on? Is there any specific thing that
I
you
do
think
very,
about?
very simple things. It just sit up straight. If you can sit on the floor, that's fine. Or in a chair. If I was in a hotel room and I had a chair I could sit in, and just open the window so when the sun came in, I'd know how long it had been. And I do time myself. I start just to see what time it is. And then I just let my mind be. And Christian meditation, which is something that I began, isn't always approved by the Catholic Church. But it is given at our Catholic Church. So in that you say Maranatha, which means the Spirit of God is within me. And you just use that single word once in a while to bring yourself back to it. And you stay there as long as you let the things float by. Don't dwell on any of them, like I'm hungry, what am I going to eat, or what am I going to wear, or what am I going to do if I see someone. Don't dwell on anything. And it's very nice. It's very nice. So I've done that for maybe about a month now, and I value that time because it comes back to you kind of in a larger way. You can be going along, and somehow it comes back to you, and it's larger than the time that you spent doing it. It means something because you spent time there doing nothing and thinking not at all. So it's nice. It's a wonderful habit.
I think that for addicts and for Al-Anon, the greatest enemy and the danger is that racket in your head.
Oh, yes.
It's, it's noise, and it just leaps from one crisis to another, and where everything, somebody always says in Al-Anon, you're having a $1,000 response to a nickel problem.
Right.
Where everything is catastrophic. And if there isn't anything right in front of you, well, you got one coming, and you can dredge that up, and and for me, it was like they were lined up behind a door, and say, "Here comes one." Okay, well, I think I've figured that out and solved that. Well, something's knocking. Excuse me, I'm next. And they're just noise and racket. And what I found in Al-Anon is you could actually change your thoughts. You could get control of them. I mean, these things that come in to worry you and because that was the system you were living in. When you're living with an addict, you've got real things to worry about. What's the next crisis going to be?
Right.
But when that's over, they're still lined up behind the door ready to come into your head, and you realize that you can actually... You can make them go away by reordering your thought. No phone rings, no telegram comes to the door. So we've got this to worry about now. Yeah. Are you ready?
Right.
You're finished with that yet? Because here's the other one. You can stop that racket because you've made it up. In my case, it was almost like somebody else was in there causing me to deal with things that were not real. And to say, prioritize this. You can't do anything about that until tomorrow. There's no need to work on this all night tonight and lose sleep over it because you can't do anything about it. But some part of your head says, yes, you can.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, you can.
Big step on, I think that to death.
Don't listen to that.
Yeah.
That's just some mamby-pamby guy who thinks he can stop this kind of talk. We know better, don't we? Let's work ourselves up. But you have to get hold of that and control it, and you can. I can't do it all the time, but I can do it much more than I used to.
Amazing.
It is amazing.
It's amazing.
55 years is amazing.
Of anything.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you've got to be the longest running marriage act in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, right?
I think we're up there.
Yeah.
That are still alive.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Well, there's that.
Yeah. Who are married and know they're married.
Oh, there's that.
There are a
too.
couple of those probably who are living together,
And
have been married, and don't know who they are.
Don't know who they are. Right. That's true. What do you think that was the most meaningful element of treatment and aftercare that you have received, that you take with you on a daily basis?
Kindness, letting myself be kind. That's a good one because that can carry over the whole day with your experiences with people,
Right.
with your next door neighbors when you go to the store. You know, that can, and it soothes the other thing, which is dependency and despising everybody and being by myself. It soothes it. It's very soothing for a person with those kind of things who, when they're alone, can do that.
I think that's what happens to alcoholics or addicts of any kind. They isolate.
Yes, that's true.
And they're cut off.
I want to change directions just for a second. Can you tell us about your thoughts or direct experiences with the heroin epidemic, and have you known anyone struggling with that addiction?
Oh, yeah, I have.
Do you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, a lot of young people. A lot of young people today. When I first went in 7 years ago, they were the older guys and women, but today it's lots of young people. My goodness, 18, 19. So it's much more widespread, it seems to me.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah, it's an epidemic. True.
It really is. And this business of legalizing marijuana, I think is completely
Bad idea.
This is a really bad idea. You know, anybody who has been in our situation and around, you know, the organizations that we've been involved with knows that's a bad idea.
Right.
And thinking this is harmless and all of that, I mean, you think of all the people out there driving who are drunk, and now you're going to have all these other people out there that they're buzzed on marijuana, and they're on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so
it's a two for one.
Get off the, you know.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I assume that when I'm driving, everybody around me's buzzed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I get in. I drive like a grandfather now, and I get in the far right lane and just let them do whatever they're going to do.
We see them. Yeah, we see them out there. Yeah.
What would you say to our listeners who are suffering from various maladies or codependency about adopting a 12-step program?
Oh, if you can, go for it. It's really incredible.
Yeah, I don't think you can do it. Some people, I think a small percentage, have actually done it on their own. They've just said, that's it, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
But it's very difficult, I think. And that's what's wonderful about the program and the meetings and all of that. Like I was saying before, you have a new place to go.
Right.
And you have to get there. I've always said in the al-anon that I don't know what this is, how it works, I just know it works. I don't know what the name of any of it is. It's the meetings themselves or something.
Absolutely.
Or being in the room with that energy of all the other al-anons in there. I don't know what you call it. I just know that it works.
Yes, if you have a perception of the bottom that you've reached and want help, I think going to a meeting is a beginning, and then you can find out from there if you can go into rehab, and you can find the prices and things like that.
Also, the fact of Paula having a sponsor, a great sponsor, this wonderful person.
And you get a sponsor, yeah.
And she can pick up the phone, and, you know, that's a wonderful outlet.
It's a wonderful network, all of the people, yeah.
Well, it's been an honor and a privilege to get to know you guys.
Thank you, Rick. You too.
You too.
We enjoyed it.
It's been a lot of fun. I wish we could do this every week. It'd be fantastic. I would like to thank Paula and Richard for sharing their experience and perception on this disease and their wonderful stories. We're at the end of this week's show, but make sure to tune in next week for another hour of brutally honest recovery talk radio. Our mission is to provide a safe platform for those who are suffering from various forms of addiction. We're just people willing to listen and offer suggestions to help those in crises. And now we will leave you with the wisdom of the late, great John Flynn.
Disappointment. Disappointment is the caboose on the tootsie train of expectation. Anything you want from anybody, you give them what you want from them. It's the only way you're going to get it. Life is about giving, not getting. Day at a time.
Thank you, John. Thank you for listening. Good night and good luck.
You're listening to Life Repair Recovery Talk Radio with Rick Thompson, only on LA Talk Radio.